Thanks. Well, we're going to show you a special presentation on the screen over here. Since we're here from New York City, we'll show you a little New York City documentary presentation. This is called The Complete History of the Development of Punk Rock on the Lower East Side of New York City from 1950 to 1975. Well, we start with Harry Smith in 1950, a beatnik weirdo who moved to New York City. His huge collections were insane, of Easter eggs and paper airplanes and rare records. He had about 1,060,000. To change America through music was his hope, and to make some money because he was broke, he compiled a triple-decker collection of songs from his records, released as the Smithsonian Anthology of American Folk. On a Monday morning, just about 9 o'clock, the great ship Titanic began to reel and rock. Husbands and wives, little children lost their lives. Wasn't it sad when that great ship went down? Smith's plan began to work as foretold. This weird music began to take hold. It sparked an interest in these forms of life underground from the norms, and soon millions of folk records were being sold. So by the early 60s, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, Phil Ochs were all inspired by those old folks. Then one strange duo of downtowners called the Holy Modal Rounders began to make it more anarchistic with weird voices and drug jokes. Mom's out there switching in the kitchen and dad's in the living room grousing and a bitching. I'm out here kicking the gong for euphoria, euphoria. When your mind starts reeling and a-walking, your inside voices start squealing and squawking, floating around on a belladonna cloud singing euphoria. That was 1964. Then in 1965, Lou Reed and John Cale in a Ludlow Street dive recorded a similar musical spin, sounding a bit like the Rounders' acoustic and violin, with even more New York street drug jive. Hey white boy, what you doing uptown? Hey white boy, you chasing our women around?
Pardon me, sir, nothing could be further from my mind. I'm just waiting for a dear, dear friend of mine.
I'm waiting for the man. Well, a little earlier in 65, the Holy Modal Rounders met some other intellectual thugs on East 10th Street who called themselves the Fugs. The Fugs were recorded by that same Harry Smith, playing the punkiest songs yet to exist, lo-fi noisy stuff about poetry, sex, and drugs. I don't have a bedtime, I don't need to come, for I have become an amphetamine bum. If you don't like sleeping and don't want to screw, then you should take lots of amphetamines too. Harry Smith recorded 2 Fug sessions, including Tuli Kupferberg's fantastic song, Nothing. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday and Thursday, nothing. Friday for a change, a little more, nothing. Saturday, once more, nothing. Fucking nothing, sucking nothing. Flesh and sex, nothing. The world's great books, a great set of nothing. Social anthropology, hackalacka, nothing. Nothing, 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 nothing. Lots of it, nothing.
Goddamn thing.
The Fugs were real poets with real topics to speak out, and through the new underground scene, this weird music could leak out, beginning the punk idea that anybody could do it without needing much musical ability to it, and this new crazy music was soon labeled Freak Out. In 1966, the Fugs signed to New York label ESP. The same label put out a freak out band called The Gods, spelled with a Z. The Gods accomplished the feat of making even the Fugs music sound sweet, with the least musical folk punk racket in history. Meow, meow, really sounded exactly like that. Far from the West Coast hippie scene, New York's underground music was far from mainstream. It was intellectual but noisy and hectic, and then the Velvet Underground went electric and made folk punk more beautiful and more extreme. I'm waiting for my man. Got $26 in my hand. Up to Lexington, 125. Feel sick and dirty, more dead than alive. I'm waiting for my man. It's alright. I'll walk it home. Nothing could stop New York's strange folk punk tide. In 1968 came David Peel and the Lower East Side. They recorded an album out in the street, screaming and sloppy. Danny Fields signed them to Elektra Records, and it sold a lot of copies, with songs like I Like Marijuana and Up Against the Wall, Motherfucker, inside. Mother, oh, where is my father? Oh, where is my brother? They're at war. They're at war. You made them join the dirty U.S. Army. You told them all a filthy white lie. You gave them all the bullshit and baloney. And now my brother and my father gonna have to die. And the Stooges were a freak-out band in Detroit, but folks ignored them until Danny Fields brought them to New York and had John Cale of the Velvets record them. While most acid rock was turning into progressive, the Stooges instead pushed the raw and aggressive, and Iggy Pop sang about degradation and boredom. Alright, well, it's 1969, okay. War across the USA. It's another year for me and you. It's another year with nothing to do. It's another year for me and you. Another year with nothing to do. Oh, it's 1969, baby. Oh, it's 1969, baby. Well, in 1970, David Peel's second album came with some amazing songs and some a little lame. In most pre-punk histories, David Peel is forgot because he was a hippie singing lots of songs about pot, but his second album is the first album with the real sound that electric punk rock soon became. We are from the Lower East Side. We don't give a damn if we live or die. We are from the Lower East Side. We don't give a damn if we live or die. And even though this was a few years before this was something the Clash would also do, David Peel even mixed punk with reggae on the great song I Want to Kill You. 1, 2, 3, 4. You call the people of the future generation. You call the people in a world of demonstration. You call the people in a life of aggravation. We got to change the world before annihilation. Gonna get a rifle and I'm gonna get a gun. I am out to kill you and I'll have a little fun. I am out to murder you, I'm going to attack. I am out to kill you, you're the monkey on my back. Oh, I want to kill you. Kill, kill, kill. I want to kill you. Kill, kill, kill. In 1971, Lester Bangs first writes the word punk to describe 60s enthusiastic teen rock junk. In 1972, New Yorker Lenny Kaye puts out the 60s garage rock compilation Nuggets and coins the phrase punk rock in the liner notes of it, although punk rock would soon come to mean something different from the 60s songs that Lester and Lenny thunk. Like this one. Oh, I feel depressed, I feel so bad, 'cause you're the best girl that I've ever had. girl's psychotic reaction. And it feels like this. Well, Lenny Kaye was also a guitarist, and he began playing music with an East Side poet named Patti Smith, who would use it to mix her wild poetry with simple rock stuff, like the Fugs in a way, but less rough, a postmodern way to take high art and low art and fuse it. '73 is around when the New York Dolls start, mixing trash and drag fashion with a rock and roll heart. The Johnny Thunders, David Johansen sound mixed the old style simple rock with the new New York underground and sort of defined the moment when Stupid on Purpose became the new smart. Side of New York began punk fashion as well, with spiked hair and ripped clothes worn by the poet Richard Hell. Hell was in television, the Neon Boys, the Heartbreakers, the Voidoids, and he wrote the song that gave the new 70s punk generation its first anthem yell. I was screaming, get me out of here, before I was even born. It's such a gamble when you get a face. It's fascinating to observe what the mirror does, but when I die, it's for the wall that I set a place. Cause I belong to the blank generation, but I can take it or leave it each time. Yeah, I belong to the generation, but I can take it or leave it each time. Well, 74, 75, CBGB starts having punk shows with television, Patti Smith and the Ramones. 76, punk fanzine began. Then the whole thing moved to England. England stole all the credit, and that's how it goes. The